Welcome! Join me for another Kerbal Space Program 2 adventure. Apologies, this one's a bit late. I thought it would be fun to do some kind of moon mission and try to go back to the moon, but I needed to spice it up. I needed a little something extra. If I'm going to land on the moon, I might as well build something that can bring a lot of people, and I'm going to make it kind of wide so landing will be easier, hopefully. So I'm testing my lander, trying to see how well it can land and if it's maneuverable enough. I need to add a bunch of uh, SAS or something. Thrusters probably is what I'll have to rely on the moon. And then I got thinking, wouldn't it be cool to bring a rover with me? But then I thought, if I'm going to bring a rover, I'm going to bring a big rover. And this is my rover prototype with the big wheels. And I'm just going to build like some porches to hang out on, maybe like little patio, space patio, and some chairs out there. Space patio, mobile space patio, and some chairs. And my original lander has become just kind of an ascent vehicle, but it's going to have docking ports on either side, so it should be multi-useful. Ah, yes, and I forgot to mention this first little bit here doesn't have any sound recorded. I'm not sure why it didn't record the game sound. This thing flies pretty well, and it's pretty controllable as well. And I have really no trouble landing it and flying it about. It drives pretty decently. So at this point, I'm pretty much just going to push this design exactly as is uh, into space on something. A smooth landing. Yeah, this thing just is a dream. Some of my favorite times playing this game is just testing stuff at the Kerbal Space Center and just destroying it and reverting the flight and just testing like ejection systems and staging and stuff like that. Uh, it's just way too much fun. And we are out of gas? Are we out of gas? Something went clank. Now we're out of gas. Well, see you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Or I mean, sorry guys. Ooh, it didn't do me any good anyway. Seriously, I could just do this for hours. In fact, I often do. But I'll spare you. Short version is the craft works great. Now let's build a rocket for it. So we really just need a basic return capsule for this. We're going to need to be able to hold at least 5 people. Some kind of Apollo-style mission, I guess. Well, I decided it should be green, and I'm just trying to find a big enough engine to push all this. I'm really worried about the rover piece and how that's going to do flying through the air. I'm actually not even sure if I need to put it in a cone or not. Strapping on some solid rocket boosters, and then I think we're just going to take off. I don't think I need a fairing. And liftoff of a rover to the moon. And I know it's the Mun, I know that, but it's also a moon. So people who say that it's the moon are really not wrong, right? So far so good without a fairing, and maybe getting the littlest bit of oscillation, but we're pretty high up now. I think we're totally fine. Okay, that's quite a bit of noodling. Alright. Yep, lost control. Just like that, we lost the flight. Might I recommend a fairing? Alright, if we're gonna use a fairing, we're gonna use a really big, ridiculous fairing. This thing's the circus tent. It's ridiculous. Alright, let's fly. So far so good. Fairing seems to be helping. Solid rocket boosters are plenty of push. I bet you we have way more fuel than we need, but I'd rather have more and be able to get there. All the sphere of influence shifting bugs are fixed, and I'm feeling good about this. This is gonna be a fun and fulfilling adventure in space. Also, it's a good thing that Kerbal Space Program 2 has captured the joy of closing pop-up windows. That definitely needed to be in my Kerbal game. It's a bit sluggish to control, but we're just going to park this thing into orbit, and then we're going to get ready to head off to the moon. So I've planted my injection burn, and I'm just going to execute it here. Just going to burn my engine until that little yellow bar is completely gone on my node in the middle of the screen there. And this is always the nerve-wracking part, because at this point we're committed to the moon, and if I have done my fuel calculations wrong, then we're doomed. And here we go, rolling down space-time all the way to the moon. And then we're just going to burn our engine and slow down here. Thankfully, no more orbit weirdness. In earlier versions of the game, your orbit would completely change, or your path would completely change when you shifted spheres of influence, and it was terrifying. So I'm really glad to see that that's fixed. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, we're parked here in an orbit, so I'm just going to circularize it here, and then we'll make an attempt at the surface. It is kind of a weird looking spacecraft. The colors are all over the place, and that's my fault. But I was goofing around, is my defense. Fuel seems good. Doesn't seem like anything's robbed anything. So now we're just gonna tediously activate a bunch of engines, I suppose, and then we're gonna push ourselves on out of orbit here. I have a bad feeling about this. This game's just not been kind to me when I go to far off distant places. Actually, that's pretty fair for space, to be totally fair. Space is not very kind to us when we go visit these far off places. That's a cool shot. That stays in the video. You can't plan that stuff. Well, I mean, you can. I'm not going to plan that stuff. Well, so far so good. We seem to be in control with lots of fuel, and we're still at a pretty high altitude. So we'll just time warp till we're lower, and then I'll start firing my engines. And what the? Hey. Well, obviously we've just experienced an unscheduled disassembly. I really wish that the event log included like game events like undocked, entered sphere of influence, exited time warp, things like that, because it would help me track down if what happened was a design problem on my part or some kind of weird the game forgot how reality works. So I'm pretty sure this is somehow related to time warp and my vehicle exiting time warp. Obviously I've quick loaded here, and we're just going to try landing again. Exiting time warp. Hold on to your butts. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. Well, after another quick load, we're going to try this again, because try again we must. This time, we're going to test my patience, and I'm going to not use time warp beyond a low altitude. So basically, I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to warp in now. I'm going to exit warp. Hopefully I don't explode. And then I'm just going to wait until I feel like I need to fire my engines. Alright, I'm going to start burning off some velocity here. We're looking good. We're good. I think we're good. No, we're not good. Why did I throttle down? I shouldn't have throttled down. You idiot! Okay, 80 meters, 70 meters. Yeah, we're dead. Sorry, guys. Let's try that again. Ah, yes, the gameplay loop of Kerbal Space Program. The quick load button. Alright, so we know time warps the enemy, so we just want to get as low as we can without exploding. So let's drop out of time warp. Ah, expletive. It's probably about now you'd think I'd give up, wouldn't you? Yeah, but I'm not that smart. This game, and its predecessor, I'm just a glutton for punishment. So let's try this again. And we're going to not use very much time warp after a low altitude. And hopefully we don't explode. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Oh. So, I don't really know because I'm not a game designer, but the problem with my vehicle has either got to be the way it's connected with a docking port, which I think is unlikely. I think it's more likely that it's some kind of bug with the strut pieces that I used to build the whole bottom of the rover, the big truss pieces, I mean. It could also be a totally unmotivated random Kraken attack, and my feeble human brain is trying to make a pattern out of it. But anyway, let's try this again. Let's land this again. This I've got a good feeling. This is it. We're gonna land this time. So we're looking pretty good, I think. I think I can bleed off that much velocity. Yeah, we're golden. We've made it. Gentle Kerbals, we've made it to the moon. There's my nice shadow. Okay, that was ugly. Yeah, quick load. I would like to remind you that each one of these landing attempts, at least from a decent altitude, I have to do this all real time without fast forward. I probably should have paid attention to what altitude the problem starts at, but yeah, who has the time? This one's it. I got a good feeling. Although now I'm using my ascent vehicle to finish the landing, so that's not the greatest. Here we go. We're getting pretty close. Okay, shadow time. Ooh. Yeah, I'm using quite a bit of my fuel for... That's my going home fuel. But that's okay. That's okay. Let's just put a rover on the moon. Yeah. All right. Hey, that... Bouncy. All right, but we are safely, at last, on the Mun. The surface of the Mun. And it is shiny indeed. Time for a little EVA action. Let's get out and explore. Explore our mighty patio. I love the foot sound effects, the footsteps. Oh, that's great. I dislike the inventory parts manager, but I like the sound effects. I dislike the collision. Nothing like driving your own rover across the surface of the moon. Under the night sky, because that's the only sky there is. I am really impressed with how well this thing drives around, actually. It's pretty stable and it's really fast. Actually, I think rovers in this game in general just have quite a overhaul that is much appreciated. Alright then, I guess we just have to try the ascent vehicle. So we've got these things separated and let's get out of here. Well, my bad, I didn't record the immediate liftoff. But as you can see, I'm having some trouble controlling this thing. I've got plenty of fuel, so fingers crossed, let's see if we can get this thing into orbit. Things are looking good. I've got plenty of fuel to put this thing into orbit, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. And then we're just going to meet up with the mothership and head back to Kerbin. Or so I thought. As you can see, I can't see my orbit, and I can't create a maneuver, and I can't go rendezvous with the other spaceship now. Not this again. Well, naturally I tried some things like switching to another vehicle and controlling another vehicle and going back to the tracking center and even controlling something in orbit of Kerbin. And yeah, it's just glitched. I am in orbit with no orbital path. So it's with a heavy heart that another crew is quarantined here in orbit of a celestial body. We'll give them a humorous name so we'll remember where this quick save happened, and I'm just gonna come back for these guys at a later date, I guess, in theory. Didn't I say I was gonna start sending robotic missions? Because I do genuinely feel bad that these guys are stuck here. They have a really nice return capsule just somewhere around the moon, and if I was better, I could probably fly it without instruments, but I'm not that good. I need my maneuver nodes at least to do a rendezvous. I probably should have just designed the thing to go straight back to Kerbin. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed me rambling, and I hope you enjoyed watching my failures here. And there were some successes, cool designs anyway. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, or if you would, and I would appreciate that. And otherwise, check back in about a month for another Kerbal adventure.